So we are live in 1 minute.
Okay, one minute.
I'm going to do an introduction and then I will start with questions. Okay.
Perfect.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Monique Leenditz Lang. Thank you for joining me on the second Real Talk. So you can catch me on Thursdays on Love Radio, and you can catch me on Sunday mornings for Kids Connect on Love Radio. With our last Real Talk, we focused on COVID. We focused on some questions on how to get tested, what to do if you have it, and we spoke to some COVID survivors. And if you still want to have a look at what we spoke about, please have a look on the Facebook page. You can go and, look at our live video. Tonight, we are talking about something that's also touched most households during this pandemic. It is homeschooling. So we will be talking to Chauvet Feder. She's a mom of 3, and she's a homeschooling expert. I call her a homeschooling expert. And then we're going to be speaking to Donna Jacobs. She's a mom of 2. She works full time. I don't know how she does it, but she's going to be sharing with us. And then we're going to be talking to the lovely teacher, Charmaine. She's a grade 1 teacher. She's extremely enthusiastic. She loves all her kids. And she's going to be sharing some pearls of wisdom with us. She's going to be telling us how they've had to change schooling to integrate online, and to integrate some parents' mistakes. I know the parents are doing the best that they can. For me personally, I must say, I have not had that much to do with homeschooling because my husband, at the beginning of the pandemic, he was laid off. So he's actually doing all the homeschooling with all the 3 kids, grade 10. And my twins are in grade 1 and grade 2. So my hat off to him. But anyway, tonight it's ladies. It's Women's Month. We are women of worth. So we are going to kick off with a few questions for Chauvet. Good evening, Chauvet.
Hi, Monique. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor to have you with us. I'm going to be asking you, I see you've been homeschooling your kids for such a long time. Is it about 12 years?
Yeah, ever since our oldest was very little, and schooling really starts the moment you try to teach your kid how to do anything, like homeschooling wise, for me. Yes. Anyway. So she's 12 years old. She'll be 13 in September. So.
Wow. What started you off in that direction? What made you do that?
In terms of actually choosing homeschooling as a lifestyle for our family, it was around the time when Aislinn is our oldest, when she was about 3-4 years old, is when parents have to decide which preschool to put their child in, and that preschool needs to feed into the right grade R, and the grade R needs to feed in. It's like you have to plot your life from preschool. And when that decision came, at the time, Tim, my husband, was working a day where he'd leave the home at 7 in the morning and come home at 10 at night. And we were really, it was at that moment that I just came to realize, you know what, if we don't do or make a shift, these children will never see their father. And so that was the primary reason, if you're asking, like that's when we made the decision we're going to homeschool for the sake of relationship with their father, so that if we needed to, we could just take everybody and go have lunch with daddy, or we could just take everybody, all their schoolwork, and go sit in daddy's office, or we could go with dad and be with daddy wherever he could be, and go on leave whenever he wanted to. And that was a primary reason. We also just laid out the thereafter checks at the end of every year. We said, okay, we're going to just check where we're at, and should we continue homeschooling with them. And it's 12-13 years and we're still doing it. So so every year we're just like, this is what we're meant to be doing, and this is what we're meant to be, like what our family's meant to be doing. So yeah, that's
I wanted to ask you regarding price. Is homeschooling more expensive?
You know, it's relative. I think just the way that you would choose which school your child is going to go as a parent, like you choose if you're going to go with government education or with private education, and you look at what your budget is as a family. We, um, you know what, we trusted God. Honestly, every time when it came to their curriculum, I laid out what I wanted for my kids, and I was just like, okay, Lord, I really desire this curriculum for them. But if not, I will make a plan. My mom is a a primary school teacher, so I was like, okay, foundation phase, I could at least grab at her and be like, Mom, what do I teach them? But I really desired to have a curriculum that was God-based, expose them to other religions and other beliefs and so on. And that curriculum is in America, and it cost us at the time roughly about, I think it was about 11,000 rand a year. Well, no, that's now. Sorry, back then it was 2,000 rand because it was just little kiddie stuff, but back then for us that was a lot of money. But then I started to do the math and realize, so when in hindsight that sounds expensive, like, you know, it's like, oh my word, like now at the moment we're spending about 12,000 rand a year just to put it out there for our curriculum that we've chosen to use, but it's 12,000 rand for 3 children. Because
I was just going to ask you that. 12 for all 3 or 12 per?
Then I hand it over to the next one. I've kept all the books. They go into crates. They are taken care of meticulously. Then it goes to the next one. So I've actually been able to regurgitate. And then once we've taken good care of that, I can resell it. So now we're actually in the transition between 2 curriculums where I'm going to actually take the old one. Once my son is done, we're going to sell it and then use that finance to try and pay for what I'd really like to do with my older one in terms of curriculum. But that being said, that's because that's the education we chose to do for our family. That's what I wanted to do for them. But there's free stuff available everywhere. And so,
okay, I'm going to get to that. I want to ask you that. I want to ask you, you said that the curriculum did you say it's an American-based curriculum or is it South African?
It's Sunlight. It's SONLIGHT, and they're renowned for doing all their research ahead of time. I needed a curriculum where I didn't need to do research, so I could feel like I could tick boxes. Okay. Everybody has a different personality, and I'm a personality that needs boxes to be ticked, or else I like you go into that mode of, I think I'm failing my children. I needed that, and this curriculum offered a detailed schedule, what pages to read, they'd already done the research of the book ahead of time, so I just had to read up on what they advised and what to expect from that book and so on. And that's why it is American based, and but it gives the options of what I can grab at in terms of the maths curriculum and their English curriculum versus I don't want to get into the technicalities of it.
Okay, no, don't. I just want to know though, is it recognized in South Africa? Should you ever decide that you want to move your children back to mainstream?
I get this question a lot. And if I was ever to decide to put my kids back into school, I would just make sure, I've always referred to, I think it's called the Government or Business Gazette, where they actually lay out what your child is meant to be able to achieve by the end of the year. So I always, in the early stages of homeschool, when I wasn't as confident, I would go to that thing and like, okay, what does my child need to be able to do? He needs to be able to jump with 2 legs, read 17 words, and needs to be able to know his numbers from 1 to 10, whatever. So like the grade R regulations. So every time I check that, and then should I need to go into the school, and I kept all of their material, so all the activity sheets and all of their stuff. So if I needed to go to a school, this is just me. I can't answer for what is regulation because I must be honest. I just have safeguarded that should my child need to do that, I've got this, then I can go say, my kid knows how to do this. But I'm sure that when my child, if they were to go into a school, I know that they do test the kids before they get integrated, and they test them holistically. So
we'll ask Teacher Charmaine, maybe. Teacher Charmaine, do you know if there's any, I know you don't know a lot probably about homeschooling, but is there a particular curriculum that South Africans follow? Is it called CAPS? I'm not too sure. I just want to find out.
Yes. We currently using the CAPS system in the schools. Private schools can sometimes differ. Some private schools use the caps. Other private schools actually use like the Cambridge system. So
Okay.
private schools, it also does differ. Special needs schools as well. I know, for example, with my husband, with his school, their special needs learners are a lot weaker. So they use something called the D caps. So yeah, each curriculum is different, and it also is based on the school. Homeschooling, I also think there's probably quite a variety out there, but I must say I would be cautious. That's why it's clever what was done, is that whatever curriculum you choose, that you don't choose a fancy curriculum and then you want to put your child into a school and then there's a stumbling block.
Yeah.
It's the same with interviews. When I did teaching interviews, I'm familiar with the CAP system. But then when I went to school to do an interview, they had the Cambridge system in place, and they said, you know, do you know the Cambridge system? And I said, no, I don't. And that's the thing. Then they weren't overly keen because they want teachers who are qualified with systems like that. But when you do your teaching degree in South Africa, they only teach you the CAP system. They don't teach you these other systems,
Okay.
other curriculums.
Okay. So, Donna, what curriculum are your kids doing?
Caps.
Just a question. Seeing that we're
I
talking
don't-
about it.
I don't know of any others.
Shabari, what do you?
I know of quite a few. There's quite a few curriculums and systems. CAPS is like Charmaine said, is a South African based one, and lots of parents from before lockdown would have chosen a different route because of where they want their kids to be in university afterwards. So, like if you want your kid to go into South African university, CAPS is the bare minimum, if I can say. So like that is it's the matric certificate, and then you have a GED and SATs, which is the American requirement.
Yeah.
And you can go with that curriculum. There's curriculums that would go through that, and then you have the Cambridge system, which is the UK based one, and that's actually what we're switching over to in the next year. So we're switching over to the Cambridge curriculum in the next year. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Oh, just by the way, viewers, if you have any questions for these Wonder Women, please ask them and we'll try and answer them. Okay. Donna, so you say your kids it's CAPS curriculum.
That's right.
Okay. What different grades are your kids?
Okay, so I have a new starter in grade 1, Josh, and then I have Ethan, who's in grade 9, and Melissa, who's in grade 10.
Okay. And are you having to obviously school all three of them?
So the two teenagers really see to themselves. The one who needs my full-time attention during learning is the grade 1 Josh.
Okay. And I just want to ask you, because I've got my teenager who told me earlier on, the one benefit of homeschooling is that he can eat as much as he wants. But the negative of homeschooling is that he's not so motivated to do his work because there's no one really chasing him to do it. So do you have the same problem?
I think, Shem, my teens, well, my son, he is very happy to be at home and work from home on his own time, start when he wants to start and end when he wants to end. But they generally start around after 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been too bad. It took some getting used to, though, just getting the discipline and the structure. I sort of put in the informal rule. This is like pretend school. You're not starting at 7:45, but you do need to start by a certain time at the latest. And you can take breaks in between, keep the cell phone to a minimum or not at all, those kind of things. And that really helped. And I think also then we would eventually, the school also started getting sort of smarter and evolving with homeschooling during lockdown. So they would then weekly send us like a plan of what the kids for each grade had to complete for each subject. So that really helped. So it wouldn't just be them checking on TeamViewer or Google Classroom what they had to do, and me having to log in as well to check, because now I could check at the end of the week or in the middle of the week, and at the end of the week show me what you've done based on the emailed communication from the school. So that was for the high schoolers, and that really helped. And it wasn't, in the beginning it took some getting used to, because we had to sort of explain, or I had to explain, it's not because I need to check, not because I don't trust that you're doing your work, you know, because it was a bit of a trust issue initially. It's like, but I told you I did my work, why do you not believe me? So I had to explain it wasn't a trust issue, but I explained to them that we're training you into adulthood, and we're still teaching you how to be accountable and how to keep a schedule and how to organize yourselves. Those skills don't just happen overnight. So by us checking, or by me checking and say you missed something, make me sort of like your sounding board or your catch fence. That is me checking when mommy checks your work. And then whatever you do miss, you can make it up the next day or still the same day, and so on. So yeah, it took some getting used to, but I think in general, they're quite okay. They're very disciplined, and they actually learn quite well by themselves, but not without checking.
Okay, because I wanted to just say, I took that trust thing, and my husband and I just went, okay, are you doing your work? Yes, mommy, I'm doing my work. Are you doing your work? And weekly, after about 3-4 weeks, we then decided to check TeamViewer. And then there were missed assignments, missed letters, missed everything. So now we've realized that with our older one, we can't just do that. We have to do the regular checks and balances to make sure that, you know, he's doing his work. But back to Chauvet. Chauvet, your weekly homeschooling, how do you plan that? How do you plan that, you know, for all 3 kids? What does it look like?
It's so interesting to hear, because obviously everybody's now learning, like hearing Donna say about her oldest, like you have to check on them, and also you, Monique, saying that that there's certain children that actually you have to actually check what they're doing. My children are completely different. Like as you know, I've got 3. One is grade 7, one is grade 5, and the other one's grade R, grade 1 kind of vibe at the moment. And I say that because, you know, the lines blur in homeschooling. So my grade 7 will gladly sleep until 8:30 in the morning, and then wake up and casually start working at about 9. And then she can work until 1. But my second one, my grade 5, from little will wake up. She used to wake up at 3 in the morning and go, if there was work to be done, she'd go and work. And because she needs the work to be done. But now we've made the rule, you cannot go to your desk earlier than 6:30 in the morning. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Yeah, but that's her personality. And my son is also, who's in the grade R, grade 1, who's like, Mommy, we need to do school now. We need to do school. And I'm like, bruh. So in terms of schedule, I had to actually try and accommodate everybody in terms of their personalities and what they needed from the situation. So I prepped for my grade 5 the night before. I used to. She's now coached herself. I've coached her into doing it herself. But I used to prep the night before and write everything out for her that she needed to have done so she could just get going at 6:30. And then my oldest one, I knew, okay, at 9 o'clock, the 2 of us will get together, because we're both not morning people. And so if anybody comes to us earlier than that, we're going to kill them. So we might as well not do school before 9. And so I say breakfast and everything needs to be done by 9 o'clock. And then we're going to meet up in the schoolroom. Let's see where everybody's at. What have you done? And then I actually so I do a check-in at about 9. And then I do an hour with my youngest one, because the little ones concentrate better early in the morning. Just a given fact. And the beauty of the fact that my grade 5 has worked and done everything by 9 o'clock, she's done. Her day is finished. So then she's able to play with my grade 1, so that she then takes him off and then goes, and they just go play. And then I'm able to sit with the grade 7, who's the one that needs to be checked. Because if I don't check her, she'll flail around and just, no, I did the work. It actually happened where I just thought, you know what? I wanted to learn a life lesson, and I let her go, like for about 6 months, let her go without, like without checking, because I thought, you know what, I'm wanting her to see the weight of this decision. And her grade 5 sister, she's technically grade 5, but she needs to she's starting grade 6 now. So she's starting grade 6 now in June, because she's gone that quickly through her work. But of course, my grade 7 has just finished grade 6-ish and realized her sister just caught her up. And she's like, oh my word, I need to actually do something about this. And I'm glad I did it, because now she's suddenly gotten a fire up, but like got the fire up her bum without me having to do anything.
Yes.
And is now she's actually taken the principles from her sister to say, oh my word, I need to actually work at this, and has caught herself up. So she's caught herself up, and so so the school day is organic. Yeah, so it works well for them. And then they with pretty much as long as that hour with with the handwriting, holding the pencil, making sure the leg is not above the head whilst they are like trying to do whatever. Like, sit and focus. And this is a storybook. These are pictures. This is what it means. Like that's what you're doing. And so my main focus is with him. But with the other two, it's coaching and getting them to be self-motivated, because inevitably their careers are their decision at the end of the day, and they need to understand that now. And if they don't decide that now, I feel by the time they're 18, it's a little bit too late. Like they need to feel the weight. They need to feel the weight of it now when they're grade 7, grade 6, where they're just like, okay, guys, if you don't actually work now, it's too late to wake up later.
I just wanted to ask you quickly. I know from my own kids, being at home during lockdown, not being able to play with their friends. They're always complaining, Mommy, I miss my friends, Mommy, and it's just not the same. When they are at school, obviously they get to play, although we're going to talk to teacher Charmaine about that now, whether they are and what they can do. But as a homeschooling mom, how does that social interaction take place? How do your kids, interact with others besides interacting with themselves?
What's so funny is that when you said at the beginning, she homeschools 3 children. Woo! I have family friends and so we have linked arms with other homeschooling families. And I think that's the main thing about homeschooling, is you need to have a community that you've built with. And over these years, I've built really good community. And one of the family friends we have, they have 6 children. And it's great because there's one for each of mine. So so when we visit and do a play date, there's 3 kids that are their age, and the beauty of it, the same gender as well. So that also just like ticked all the boxes. Yeah, and then and other families in similar, like I think we're one of the smaller families. So there's like 6 and 4, and the average group, like the homeschooling family, is about 4 children. So that's there's more now that have 2 and 1. And it's mainly lots of parents have gone for because just to help the child with a learning deficiency, like ADHD and all of that. But the rest of us that chose it from the beginning, it's like we just having babies, man. But so we choose to do play dates, but also the kids do extramurals. I think you were wanting to ask me that.
I did want to ask you that. What kind of extramurals do you do?
I went into extramurals mainly to strengthen their body, because the beauty of school is that the kids get to climb on jungle gyms, they get to run and fight and whatever with each other, which actually builds their upper body strength, which is so necessary for. And this I just know because I read up on it. What does the child need when they're learning? And so my kids, we didn't have a jungle gym and so on. So I thought gymnastics would be really good for them to learn to be able to pull, swimming for their core. And then ballet, because the girls, they were interested in dancing. So those 3 I thought were great. And what's been amazing is that they have taken to them like duck to water. And they do really well. And so the girls are now doing gymnastics and compete in provincial level. And swimming as well is my daughter's in club swimming, and that's really great. And she's in a good club with that. And then in my other daughter, so the one does gymnastics and swimming, the other one does ballet and gymnastics, which complement each other really nicely as well. And then my son is doing play ball because he's a boy and he needs to learn to throw a ball and how to hit without killing someone. So So that's where, so, and I just also have like 2 extramurals is all you can have, and that's all we can afford really. And the beauty of it is that some clubs give discounts the more children you have, which is great. So, yeah, that's where they get most of their social interaction, and church. I mean, they've got great friends at church. They've got great and different genders as well, which is wonderful, and they've been able to knit and build well there, which has been good. And but I have to make it a priority as a parent.
Get them to do it.
But also to get them out there. Like sometimes it can be too easy to just be like, oh, we'll just stay at home, and just like learn. But no, I had to say, okay, I have to sacrifice. I have to drive. Do you know how lockdown has been amazing for me? Like, let's just say, I don't have to drive.
Driving, yes.
Oh, but it was, my kids, same social problem. Like my son is a social bunny. He even started talking to the dog next door over the wall. Like he really was struggling.
I want to ask Donna a question quickly. Firstly, Donna, I know that your kids are very active. And I think she mentioned gymnastics. I think one of yours does gymnastics.
Yes, my 14-year-old son does gymnastics.
Oh, okay.
I just saw him at the moment. But yes, yes.
How do you stay motivated, Donna, after a long day dealing with a lot of issues at work? Often because of the pandemic, you're working longer hours now, and now you get home and you need to have this energy and motivation to homeschool your little one.
Honestly, I don't always know, but I do know one thing. I pray a lot, and I don't think I would have been able to get through it without prayer. And I remember there was one week, a couple of weeks ago, where it was a difficult week. I was working from home the Friday and the Thursday, and somehow I sometimes think it'll be easier when I'm working from home, but it just wasn't easier those 2 days. And I prayed that weekend, and I prayed that Monday morning afterwards, and I said, Lord, please let this week be better than last week. I can't do another week like last week again. Please, I don't know what you're going to change, but just make it better. I'm really trying my best. And it was so much better. And like I said, other than prayer, I can't give you another reason other than the other little practical things I tried to put in place. And every week, honestly, it changes. So some weeks I can prepare on the weekend and try to get some things done on the weekend so that it's not so much during the week, or I make a list of the things that are going to be complicated and long to do during the week, just preparing over the weekend, and the quicker things so that I can sort of time my day, my evening, should I say, because I only get to do it in the evenings during the week. Tuesday evenings, we have Bible study as well via Zoom, but still. So that also takes up time in the evening. So it can get quite stressful, but just trying to put little things in place to organize and prepare for the week ahead. That's the one thing that helps. And of course, prayer, like I mentioned. And then the other thing that also helps me to sort of keep on keeping on is seeing the progress, especially with my grade 1er. This is such an important year where he started reading and the maths and so on, and being able to actually see, let's say from March, after the schools closed until now, it's like 2 totally different worlds. We were out today and you could read all the road signs. Oh, this is the way to Cape Town. This is the way to the waterfront. This is just reading everything around him and not even things that he's been taught before. And the books that they get weekly from school, he reads those by himself. I don't even need to sort of help him. I watch him while he's reading, but he can read it by himself, and he's reading other books, from his older brother that I've kept. He really loves reading, and to see that thirst for reading and interest in trying to read more books and more words and different things, it's really encouraging, as well as the progress with the math. Not that we don't have our down moments, we do, trust me. But just when you're feeling unmotivated or overwhelmed, I think taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, looking sort of where we started and where we are now, that is probably one of the things that motivates me as well.
Thanks, Donna. I just wanted to find out, you were saying that, like, is there a that you stand on during this time that really just is that best for you, that helps you every day?
No, not one particular verse. There's been so many over this last few months. So I don't think I can really point out one. But I can tell you that I regularly go back to Philippians chapter 4. Not even the verse, like the whole chapter. So yes, and then yes, there are many more.
Teacher Charmaine, now that Donna has told us that she's been doing all these things at home and she's suddenly amazed that her son can read everything when they get out there, I just want to ask you, how have you been able to, adjust to this pandemic, to lockdown, to having to go from teaching in the classroom to now teaching online?
So when we first started in lockdown, we actually made worksheets that we would send to the parents via email. And that, then obviously we would also we have WhatsApp groups. So we would actually send video clips on how to teach the concept or introduce the concept, because in grade 1, we don't, I'm not sure about the higher grades, but any new concept, you actually have to do repetitive with it. And you got to kind of teach them knacks. So to give you a random example, with the number name, if you say to the child, this is how you spell 3, then the child will know, but then we teach it in a cute way. We say it's and they actually learn those little tricks, and that actually helps them remember it. So we had to send video clips because obviously our school specifically is very good with these little tricks to help the kids learn. I don't know if every grade 1 teacher in the country teaches it the same way. From my own experience, the things that I've been teaching, I didn't teach when I was in a public school. We didn't teach them these little tricks. So we send these video clips home. But as the lockdown became longer, my principal made a call that we need to go on with the curriculum. We don't want the children to fall behind. We don't want them to lose out on their curriculum, so we're going to send the work home. Now, what the parents don't realize, it wasn't just, oh, I'm sending the work home, here, you can do the work with the children. I basically would send the work for that week, and while I'm giving Zoom classes, I'm actually preparing the work for the next week, because we wanted to make it a very easy process for the parents, especially the parents who might be working as well during this time. So we would actually layer it out, that we would say, here's the English, here's the maths, here's the Afrikaans, and so forth. And we would actually say Monday, the date, and we would put out the worksheets that they would have to do for their home language. Then the next thing would say Tuesday, and then the next amount of work. And then under everything, we would always have an explanation on how to do it. There was a request to do Zoom classes. So I started giving Zoom classes as well, where I covered especially new concepts that the kids hadn't been taught yet and would have actually been taught in the classroom with me. I will say this, the parents did do a good job with the children. When they came back to school by us, we did revision before we did like 1 week of revision before we started assessments. And the kids, with this whole long time away from school, there were gaps in their knowledge. You could pick it up, but there was background there. So the teachers, well, I could work with it. And the nice thing is, the reason we actually asked the parents for those papers back was so that we could see, the child struggled here, the child struggled there. And now when we did assessments, we could also pick up where are the gaps that we need to work more, because each child has their own challenges and certain things they can do very successfully, but you can't expect all the children to perform the same. So one child might do better with bonds, whereas another won't, but this child will do better with writing sentences. So yeah, we wanted to make sure, and I can honestly say we've even started term 3's work now as well, because we want the kids to have the full foundation phase in place. We've even started doing Afrikaans reading now with the children as well. I think quite a few parents were surprised about that.
Wow. So in the classroom, what is different now now that they've been back to school? You know, what have you had to put into place for them to be able to just pick up kind of where you left off online? Is the kids' interaction different? Do they understand?
So what with grade 1 specifically, and I can say foundation phase specifically, is it's all about repetition. I know that sometimes it's like, but I just did bonds of 8 with my child yesterday. Why am I doing bonds of 8 again? I just did it. But the key is, especially foundation phase, it's all about repetition. We have to make sure that all those blocks are in place before they can go over to the next grade, because the following grade, they always build on that. And if those blocks aren't in place, especially in grade 1, if those blocks aren't in place, it messes the rest of their grades up, because it just builds on that. In terms of coming back to school, I will honestly say, I mean, every child is different, every class is different, but from my own personal experience, the children actually adapted very well coming back to school. I was a bit surprised, to be honest. I actually thought that there would be quite a lot of hiccups, because, you know, it was basically a long break, and now they suddenly have to come back and there's this routine and stuff. And the only thing that was a little bit more trickier was that not all the children were having the same routine and structure. And every household is different. I mean, it depends on how many children are in your house, how they work. So I could understand that. It did take a week or two for them to understand, you know, you're back at school. You can't just get up and say, I'm going to the toilet. You actually have to put up your hand and ask.
Yes.
So that was one of the things that we actually had to work on. But the kids were generally really good. I do laugh now about that remark about the food, because that's something that did come up a lot. We would literally start school, and then I'd get the question, when is it eating time? And I'd be like, okay, no, we're going to first finish our maths, then you may eat. Okay, finish the maths. Now this child's worked ahead, and I say, okay, you got to do your mental maths now. But teacher, I'm hungry. I want to eat now. Then I'd be like, no, you got to wait first. You got to wait till this time before you can eat. So they did adapt. They adapted.
Yeah.
I will say this though, the parents did prepare the children very well. And I will honestly say that if your child was struggling with social distancing, going back to school, then they hadn't, the parents had to help build the tools for the children to do it.
Yes, at home.
The children at home, yes. Because the teachers, we can teach them the social distancing, but there had to be a basis to continue with it.
Yeah.
And it was hard on the children, but they actually really took well to it. And I don't know how each school handled it differently, but I do know, to kind of give the viewers an understanding, the children would literally have to come get temperatures checked and everything, fill in questionnaires, come into the school. Then it's hand sanitize. You got to hand sanitize before you go to the toilet. You got to hand sanitize after you've used the toilet. You have to hand sanitize before you do your work. You're not allowed to touch each other's stationery. You have to sit in your hula hoop. You're not allowed to run around and play on the jungle gyms. But I know it sounds really sad, but we did make up for it in other ways. So the kids could bring their own toy to school. On a Friday, we would let them watch a movie of their choice. They would get to draw by their tables. But we would try and still help them have social interaction without touching each other. But
that's hard.
Prepare them well.
Thank you. I was just wondering, because that's hard. Kids, I understand you have to teach them at home, but also when they see their friends, they instinctively just want to hug. They instinctively just want to touch their friends because it's their Mikey. Shavay, I wanted to ask you, is there a stigma attached to homeschooling kids? Do your kids say anything? Have you heard? Do people say, oh, no, you as a mom, what made you do that?
The stigma, I think for us, yes, there is a stigma attached, but as a family, we've just chosen not to accept that kind of stigma. And I think because we've approached it that way, the kids don't feel it. So, the first question every child gets asked whenever they join the extramural or any club or group, what grade are you in? What do you do? I have to coach them as a child to say, I'm grade 5 and I'm homeschooled, and then the
confidence.
Yeah, that too. But also the response is so funny to me. And this is why I must admit, I did laugh quite a bit at the beginning of lockdown. And please, every parent out there that's a working parent and now homeschooling their kids, please don't take this the wrong way. But I had so many parents come to me and they would say, I could never do that. Oh, my video's just gone. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. We can still hear you.
Okay, good. I would never be able to do that. Like, you must have the patience of a saint. I think that's the stigma, is that every homeschooling mother has so much patience and is so gentle and Jesus loving and never shouts at their children, and their houses are a certain way and they dress a certain way. And we were just like, I lose my mind on my children all the time. And if you come to my house, it will be like that. And if you want a neat and tidy house, it's not like that. Or like every other stigma that's attached. And then now that the parents are actually having to do what I do, I sit saying, okay, I know you said you'd never do it, but welcome to my world, people. That's why I say I don't want to offend anyone, because you're not shamed. They've got to work as well as do the homeschooling. I've chosen to do what I do, whereas lots of the parents that are in it now haven't chosen, and that's really hard. I take my hat off to all those parents that coming back to Charmaine's class, where if they've kept their kid at a level that they're able to still be educated, well done, because it's not easy. And like Charmaine said, is that there's multiple children in a home, and it's just, it's not easy just being a homeschooling parent and then now to have to try and bring your kid back. But the stigma is that also that kids are shy. They're also not go-getters. Like if they're going to go into extramurals, they're not going to go for something. And that is because they're not in a very competitive environment, and they don't need to compete. And that's because they're very sure and secure of themselves, because they know, okay, I don't have to, if I don't want to go for the ball, I don't need to go for the ball. Yeah. So I'll wait whilst you guys fight over it, and then when you're done, I'll get the ball. But what's viewed from the outside is that, no, they're not go-getters and they're not whatever. They just homeschoolers know their value in terms of approaching situations, because they haven't had to be pressured into going. And I'm not saying it's wrong, because there is school is a very good place for that. It's healthy for children to be able to push and achieve and go for something. But of course, the stigma is that it's always seen negatively when a child isn't going for it like a school kid would. Whereas we've just chosen a different approach because we're wanting our children to view the world a different way. And that's okay. I think giving each other the grace to view, it's like me saying school-going parents have made like the worst decision ever. That's not fair for me to say.
Yeah.
Because that's the choice they've had to make. They've had to make the lifestyle choice. They've had to sacrifice certain things, just like I've had to sacrifice a salary. I've had to sacrifice certain things, luxuries in our lives, because we've chosen to homeschool. So it's a case of just being gracious to one another for the choices we've made. It's like the whole breastfeeding, not breastfeeding thing when they're small, or the dummy and no dummy. It's like, guys, come on. Like,
Exactly. People have an opinion about everything, and that's the problem. And I think this is one of the things that we're trying to do with Women's Month, is just empower everyone to just embrace everyone, and just, it's a greater sisterhood. Let's not be so judgy. Let's be more supportive of one another.
yeah. Oh, sorry, I've just dropped my microphone. My husband and his technical stuff. Oh, my word.
I'm going to go to Donna quickly.
Yeah.
Donna, when lockdown started and you realized you had to, start this homeschooling thing, how did you just wrap your mind around it? And when you get stuck sometimes, what do you do?
Okay, that's a good question. I was thinking about that while I was trying to prepare myself for this. And honestly, in the very beginning, I was actually quite excited because I've always been a working mom. So I always felt like probably the opposite to you, where I never could do things with my kids at home often. I couldn't regularly get home from work early, and the involvement was minimal in terms of their development from an education point of view. So I thought, okay, this is going to be good. I mean, Josh is in grade 1. I can help him and, really get involved with what they're doing in the curriculum, and is just starting out at school. So it's such a nice opportunity. So I actually was quite excited to do it. And I didn't do it alone in the beginning. It was a joint responsibility between my husband and I, because I was actually still working from work and working from home, and he was only at home. So until he went back to work. So it was actually quite nice, and it wasn't something that I was worried about. It was just like, okay, this is different. We just have to sort of adapt, and I saw it as an opportunity. And then, of course, things got complicated because then in 3 weeks, 1 month became 2 months, and 2 months became 3 months, and well, there's different tools that we use with our school, our primary school. If I just talk about my grade 1 and now, so there's a school dojo app which we use to communicate with the teacher, and she is wonderful. She's really on it. She responds to any questions that any parent might have. And for me in particular, she's been very supportive. As soon as she gets a chance, she'll respond. There's a few times where I really lost my mind silently, thinking, I cannot find this page in the blue book. Where is this page in the blue book? I don't understand. The page does not go into this number, until I realized that there were numbers on the top and the bottom of the blue book, because the one was the activity number and the other one was the page number. Such a
my word.
And I said to her, I remember sending her a message once. I said, I just don't understand. We've done everything for this week, but I couldn't do the life skills because I cannot find this page. And I'm actually feeling really dumb right now. And she said, no, don't worry, you're not dumb. She then clarified the difference in the pages, because I was looking at the top of the activity number and not the page number at the bottom of the book. So it's like a really, really, really silly thing. But yeah, she was very on it when it came to the dojo and the communication. And I think she's so extremely supportive. And she kept reminding me, I think she could sometimes hear in my messages that I probably seemed a bit lost. And she kept reminding me that I'm doing really well. Positively.
Well, there's a shout out to you here from Romy Lott, and she says that you're the big sister that she never had, and you are an awesome mom.
Thank you, Romy. Yeah, and then the other thing is also the I heard you talking about the reinforcement and the repetition, Charmaine, and like with the different sounds and the phonics, and you get the E sound and then you get the A sound, and sometimes the E and the A looks different, but it's the same sound. And there's this app that we use, the Jolly Phonics app, and so there's the book and there's the app. So that really, so then when they learn a new sound or a new letter, they learn it on the app. So they learn it in a song, they learn it in the word, they learn it how to write it, they learn what it's not, they learn what it is, they learn it in a story. So from so many different angles, and they learn it for the, you know, a couple of times during the week, or they learn 2 or 3 different sounds in the week. So that repetition, I don't know how many times I heard Josh says, but we did this already. But we did this yesterday. But Daddy
Yes.
did this with me yesterday. Why am I doing it again? So I can totally agree. When you said it's all about repetition, I was like,
And you're like,
yes,
yes.
it's all about the repetition. I now understand why it's so important to repeat. So yeah, I think those tools really help. The fact that we had the app to communicate with, and we had a very supportive teacher and very encouraging teacher. And Josh never went back to school when the children went back, the other kids went back, because I kept him at home in July because he does have a comorbidity, and yeah, he's got a history of chest problems. So I wasn't prepared. I was going to do whatever I could do to keep him home. I'll never forget the first day when they went back to school, the grade 1ers, and it was storming that Monday. I don't know if you remember the one Monday in July when it stormed like crazy.
No.
And they went back on that day, and I felt so bad for those kids, and I'm sure they were fine. I mean, a little bit of storm is not going to hurt a child, but I was just grateful that I could keep him at home, and that it wasn't even I didn't
A question
plan on
in your
keeping,
mind.
yeah, I didn't plan on keeping him home. And his teacher just asked me about a week and a half before the time, why didn't I just do it? I said, can I just do it for the month of July and then reassess, you know, when August comes? And she said, yes, for sure. Why don't you do that? And I didn't know that was an option. So I went that way, and we continued. And then it was a challenge of switching from having the teachers almost spoon feeding us to work the teacher's lesson plan. In
Oh.
July when the kids went back, and I was like, oh, this is like welcome to the big league of homeschooling. Now I have to figure out all these abbreviations, like what is the difference between WB and BW? WB was whiteboard and BW was bookwork, and
Oh my word.
Google Classroom. And oh my word, it sounds obvious, but it was very confusing for the first week. And
Oh
yeah,
my word.
we got used to it. Luckily, thank the Lord, the second week and the third week was a whole lot easier once I figured out the lingo.
But now, Donna, I noticed, look how time flew. We've got 8 minutes left, guys.
Okay.
I just wanted to find out, so now when schools open again, are you going to continue this way and end up being like Chevy, keeping your kids at home? Or are you actually going to send your boy back?
No, I will definitely be sending him back. We are both working parents, so I don't have that as an option.
Okay.
And yeah, Shem, he misses school. He misses he just started getting used to grade 1 and the new school. He was actually still quite emotional, even at the end of the first term with me leaving him, because it was a brand new school. And I think I will be grateful for the experience, if I can put it that way, by the time he goes back to school, of learning what it feels like, somewhat, or what it feels like to be a homeschooling mom, and being part of the development that I was part of, and my husband. But I'll definitely be sending him back. And I think the main reason I kept him at home is because of the risk. I didn't want to risk him possibly getting infected in any way. I know children have a good chance of survival compared to adults, but I just wanted to reduce the risk as far as I possibly can. So we'll see what happens later on this month. They're all due to go back, I think, around about the 24th of August, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. So my plan is still to send him back. But if for some other reason the virus, starts to peak again in Cape Town, then things might change, and I might not send him back anymore. But if everything goes well with if the status quo continues with the infection rate in Cape Town, then he will be going.
Thank you, Donna. You said that app's name was again, just for those that were listening that were interested?
The Jolly Phonics app for English. Yes, Jolly Phonics. And you get
Jolly
books
Phonics
supported as well. Yes.
Thank you. Shabay, you were mentioning earlier on that you had a lot of resources that possibly parents could maybe look into. Are you able to give us one or two of them? Yeah, sure. My question is always like Donna is planning to reintegrate her son back into school. You have to answer that question. What is your end goal? So like if your end goal is to put them back into school, then stick with the CAPS system and stick with the system your school has got for you, because the worst thing you can do is deviate. I mean, it's nice that you can grab at other resources. I mean, all the PNAs, the CNAs, all the bookstores have great the Smart Kids books are great as supplements to the kids. And you wouldn't believe it, but the education department has great stuff online. Like if you go onto the South African government page, they've got like great art, like printout stuff that you can. The reason I know this is because I use them as checkpoints for my kids.
Ah,
But they would probably like Charmaine would have given that to her kids already, and Donna would have got that from her teachers already. So so as a homeschooling parent, but if your plan is to go a little bit longer with it, a great website that's free, completely free, and they have tutoring and all like subjects galore, is khanacademy.com, which is KHAN Academy. They don't take any financial support in terms of from the parent, so you can go
yeah.
on there. There's any subject, any grade, anything that you're looking to do, you can go there, and it helps you as a parent to transition your kid into possibly homeschooling for long term. There's another one called Easy Peasy. I
Yeah.
think it's
Lemon
EZY.
squeezy.
I think lots of parents might know about it, but it's also a free one for a little bit more laid back approach to
Yeah.
homeschooling. So that's great. But also, like Donna says, there's apps everywhere. We're actually going to be transitioning. My older two did Letterland, but my little one, my son, has a different way of thinking. So we're changing to Jollyphonics because that's a Cambridge way of thinking. So we're also going to be moving into Jollyphonics. So I think it's just browsing the internet for whatever your child is needing, because everybody's so unique and wired differently. And there's resources deluxe. You just type in especially now with lockdown. There is
Yeah.
everything, and from every grade, from grade R all the way up to matric. Like I know some homeschoolers from high school level have actually latched to certain tutors that tutor online and just go through certain concepts, like Charmaine was saying about like the repetition of the concept is also applicable to an older child, especially when they're going into trigonometry and geometry and all of that, and they need just that reinforcement. Being able to go to a YouTube video and actually click pause and rewind and go back and actually understand that concept for themselves is really helpful. So I would not underestimate the power of the internet in terms of YouTube being able to help a child. I'm a firm believer in the day and age we're living. Education, as much as it's great, as long as you can read and write and understand your numbers, which is foundation phase, you can take on the world, because you can Google it, you can find it, and that's why people like Charmaine are gold. Like foundation phase teachers, guys, don't
Amazing.
wow. Yeah, because I can see the value because of how much time I put into my children at the foundation phase. If you miss certain things, it does pick up later. Yeah. I hope that
Thank
helps.
you. It does. And all the links are actually, or all the links are posted in the comments below. I know Pastor Ashley has done that for us while we were busy speaking. Teacher Charmaine, you are amazing. The job you are doing is just really having to deal with the parents, having to deal with the parents' mistakes, having to fix it, and then just having to have us do it all over again. It takes a lot of resilience. Are there any, is there any advice for any of the moms and dads at home who, you know, currently just sitting there going, oh, I don't know what to do. Should I send my child back to school when it opens again? I mean, I know my kids are going back to school Tuesday. My twins go back. And I'm happy with that because I've got a great teacher. But is there any advice that you can give the parents who are feeling a little bit uneasy, who are not sure?
Yes. It's going to sound funny, but it would be take a breath and calm down. I picked it up also during lockdown. The parents stress. I got a lot of phone calls where it was like, I don't know what I'm doing. What's going on? My child can't do this Afrikaans. And they come back and they're fine. And I would honestly say to the parents, they mustn't stress. If you're sending your child back to school, do the best that you can and know that the teacher will take what you have done and they will help the child to keep up with that curriculum. And also, any teacher who loves a class and is passionate about teaching, I'm pretty sure, like my school parents know that they can just give me a call and I'll help them immediately unless I'm busy. And I'm pretty sure it's the same with all teachers. If you have a problem, call the teacher and ask. The teacher can only help you, and there's no judgment or anything. I mean, we got a degree to be able to teach. If I had an illness or something, I can't diagnose myself. I'd actually have to go to a professional doctor to diagnose me. And I'm unfortunately one of those people. I'll go and I'll go Google all my symptoms, but
I did that too.
I'll never get it right.
No, I keep on telling myself, don't do it, and then you do it, and you're like, no.
Yeah, no. So I would just say to the parents, just remember, whatever you don't manage to do, ask the teacher, or just trust that the teacher will help when your child comes back. And it's extremely important, reinforcement and routine and structure. The children, especially the young ones, they thrive on it. You won't be able to get your child to do work or to cope if you don't have structures and routines in place. Even if it is a bit more relaxed, it's fine, but there must be a routine. You can't do something where, okay, I'm going to work this hour I'm going to work 1 hour here, and then in 2 days' time, I'm going to work 6 hours here. It will confuse them. So I would honestly say that.
Thank you so much, ladies. We are out of time. I am so grateful to you for joining me. Wonder Women, Women of Worth and Strength. Thank you so much again for joining me.
You're very, very welcome.
Thank you.
Only our pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna. Have a wonderful evening. And really, you're doing an amazing job, all of you.
Thanks, Monique.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.